Running around the board, we see some more violence. Pluto, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Right up there with Venus, really, or at least where they were. Titan, geez, I don't know. I think they moved into the China space. I don't think they actually did anything else. Onto Ganymede, they attacked, hit one of the Venetian units, and also went for some Earth stuff. Mars also made attacks, hitting Titan and Earth over here. And I don't remember what they did over here. But basically, we're seeing this, struggling to try to get the leaders from being ahead. But Pluto's now in that position as well. Venus has been mostly wiped out, but they did a collection, and they're actually just one collection away. So if they're not stopped, they're going to win. And that's really about where we are. The Earth played a build action, but this is a weird game because if you're feathering your own nest and other people are trying to stop the leaders, you might come out ahead from it. And we've got a couple people like Titan, who was in that early lead in terms of position-wise, and it looked like they might win, but they have nothing. And likewise, Mars, who nobody really tried to stop too hard, was getting themselves into a good position. They got shot up over here too. They're just in the they got scattered by the Venus card. So it's kind of like this nail biter type situation where it's just, I got to stop him. But it doesn't feel like there's a lot of planning that you can really put into play with this. Now, maybe not solitaire. This would be different, that you could be sitting there thinking, I'm going to win. Feels kind of like that would be the case, kind of like a Cosmic Encounter type game. So Titan had to choose an attack action, and they attacked the final Venetian spaceship, but we've got this problem. Pluto, if not stopped, is going to win the game, and I don't think anybody can stop them. Ganymede, well, they're going to grab themselves some quick population. It's the best they can do. Mars, can they do anything? Their handful of cards is useless to them. So they're going to just grab themselves 4 resources as well. They've got 2 of theirs and 2 Earth. They don't think they can stop anyone from winning, but maybe someone else can. And they're so far behind, they've got to gather some stuff. How about the Earth? Can the Earth do anything? They've got a way to stop a zap card, but that's it. They too are going to just feather their nest. And that puts us on Venus. Venus has nothing. But they have this. And they're going to play this and do a space warp again over on Pluto. 5, 10, 1, and 1. So they've just stopped Pluto from winning the game, but can they win? All they've got that they can do is to build a spaceship. They need one more gather action to win. Pluto's at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Hey, they won. Oops. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, Pluto already won. Oops. Nobody really could have stopped them, I guess. Well, Venus could have, but they didn't, and Pluto noticed, hey, I won. Oh, well. One of the problems with a game like this is you really do have to kind of pay attention, and I'm not very good at that. Alright, I haven't used much of this up, so I'm going to just, well, I'll come back with the review in a moment. So, as to a wrap, what can we do with this? Well, we see the kind of action that it is. I don't know if every game would be this, everybody pausing and holding and seeing whether or not they can position themselves. But that's what it feels like. It feels like a game where you try to set yourself up. And particularly we saw Titan trying to do that, but it didn't work. And not really grabbing the population as fast as you can, rather trying to get yourself in the position where you can win very quickly. Unfortunately, that doesn't always work, and it comes down to who can play the best cards, who has a good hand, who can launch the attacks, and what other people's impression is. Alright, well, I'll come back in a moment. So, just did a quick play of Venus Needs Men. I wasn't even sure I wanted to play this one solo. I think my initial feelings were correct. It's not a bad game. It just doesn't solo very well. What can I say about it? Well, not much more than I said already in the wrap. It does definitely remind me a little bit of Cosmic Encounter, especially a very early Cosmic Encounter where you don't have all that tremendous complexity. On the other hand, you do have a lot of these zap cards, and they're almost like flares. I only am familiar with the original Cosmic Encounter. I played one of the later Mayfair versions or something at some point. But they remind me a little bit of the flares, and there are a lot of these in play. They're really the trump cards in the game. You have a lot of luck in terms of what kind of pile of those you're going to get at the beginning of the game. You have your technologies, which again, there's a decent amount of luck in terms of when you do a research, are you going to get it or not? Same thing with combat. There's a reasonable amount of luck in that. Overall, there's a lot of luck in this game in a way that there isn't in Cosmic Encounter. That said, though, it does strike me as something that would be fun to break out maybe towards the end of a game night and just, get to throw some dice or something, kind of like a naval war type game. It actually reminds me a little bit of something like that, another space-based one, Star Force Terra, I think it's called, where you have this, it's just a fun little game to play at the time. It's not something I would go out of my way for at all. It's not something that would likely ever make it out of my house, so unless I started having, gaming nights at home, it probably wouldn't get played anyhow. But it does have an interesting amount of strategy, and it has an interesting amount of this sort of end game, we gotta stop the guy in the lead type feeling all over the place, because, and maybe that's just the way I played it, where everybody was holding back until they could try to grab a victory all at once, or setting up for that victory in as few turns as they could possibly play. But I think that's actually the nature of the game. It's not something where you necessarily can build up a slow advantage. Although, what we saw was a player, we saw the players who were able to put things in their nest doing better than the ones who just didn't get to do those population actions. So, you got to kind of go with a mix on this, build up some ground, but don't look like you're going to win. If you look like you're going to win, everybody's going to pile up on you. People are going to throw their great cards at you. It's much better to make it look like somebody else is going to win. I think that's going to be the main factor in the game, is pointing at someone and saying, hey, he's winning. He's going to win next turn. Also, noticing that is a big deal. Like we saw, Pluto didn't even notice that they won. Somebody could have stopped them, but nobody did. I think a lot of games probably will fall in that sort of way. It's that kind of game where you have that surprise ending. Anyway, overall, I think it's the kind of thing that I would see breaking out, playing at the end of a night, maybe having a little bit of a kickoff of it, but it isn't something that is worth, saying, I want to play this. Component-wise, the map's very pretty. The spaceships and the little discs are perfectly serviceable. The rules aren't too bad at all for something this light. I'm surprised. They're pretty reasonable, actually. But the cards, sadly, the cards are kind of, I don't know, not terribly cheap, but the fact that they're in black and white, not a terrible thing. But for a game like this, you kind of, I don't know. I feel like you want a little bit more flash in something like this usually. There's also the special abilities and the player aid stuff all being on cards, especially the player aids being on single-sided cards. You know, a little bit more design work on that in terms of setting something up so you don't just have this whole handful of a special ability, a tech card, a handful of 3 tech cards, some of which can be covered up by other cards perhaps, if they were on a single, say, mat or something that had some color on it. I just think that would be a little prettier, especially since they definitely went out of their way to make kind of a pretty board, actually. I think it's kind of pretty. I mean, it's nothing, you know, again, nothing too fancy, but it's a nice gloss, it's got a nice coloring on it, etc. I think more on that flavor with the cards would have been a little bit more pleasant, but you know, because again, it's not the kind of game where the gameplay itself is going to really catch anyone. It's, you know, a silly little light game to enjoy, something that would be fun to break out with a bunch of people just for shits and giggles, really. And you know, the minimalist art is kind of reminiscent of something from the 50s, maybe. But even there, I'd want kind of a cartoony coloring to it, maybe, or something to help catch the eye and differentiate things. Maybe not so much with the Zap cards, but the technologies, etc. It all just kind of blurs together, and you don't know what everybody has. There's a lot of text on the cards, too, which isn't a terrible thing, you know, in and of itself, but for a game like this, do you really want to be picking through everybody's cards trying to read what they do? It would be nicer if that could have been more symbolically represented somehow. Star Force Terra does a great job with that by showing the dice that you need to roll as in a nice, highly visible manner. Overall, I'll probably give it about a 6, just because it is a good, solid game, I think, for its type. But, you know, there's nothing terribly wrong with it, but there's nothing terribly exciting about it either.